Welcome to Independent Green Party, Green Party, Green TV, the show dedicated to positive green New Deal solutions and the Green Party candidates and Independent Green Party and independent candidates who support and advocate for them. I'm Angela Trusty, your host for today. Independent Green Party Green TV is about Green Party Green New Deal eco jobs for the economy, positive Green Party solutions, Green Party eco capitalism. Prices must tell the environmental truth. The green industrial revolution, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, weatherization jobs, conservation jobs, efficiency jobs. Building green neighborhoods, walkable, bikeable, pedestrian and rail-friendly communities. Cutting taxpayer subsidies to zero for fossil fuel, big oil, big auto. Rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America. The election results are in. In Virginia, only 199,000 votes separated the two legacy party candidates, and 230,000 votes were cast for third-party, independent, and write-in candidates. In Virginia congressional races, all congressional districts recorded write-in votes. 280,000 fewer votes were cast for congressional candidates than were cast for presidential candidates. One race was uncontested and had 34,000 write-in votes. Only 3 races in Virginia were three-way contests, and in those races, being on the ballot increased the candidates' votes by 1,400%. In Maryland, all 8 congressional districts had third-party candidates, and 3 races were 4-way races with 2 third-party candidates. Maryland had no independent candidates on the ballot. Third-party candidates consistently pulled in 3 to 5% of the vote. Since the end of Reconstruction, there have been a total of 30 U.S. senators, 111 U.S. representatives, and 28 governors elected that weren't affiliated with a major party. There are currently 2 independent U.S. senators, King and Sanders, and 4 non-legacy party major city mayors. Hundreds of third-party office holders exist at the local level, including those in nonpartisan positions who are affiliated with a third party, including 146 Libertarian Party members and 131 Green Party members. On November 8, 2016, one sitting independent member of the U.S. House of Representatives was reelected, Gregorio Sablan from the Northern Mariana Islands, and 19 Greens were elected in local elections in California, Florida, Michigan, and Minnesota. They are Bastian Hoax, Board of Directors, Nevada County. Bruce Delgado, Mayor, Marina, California. James Rhodes, Board of Directors, Santa Cruz, California. Jason, Governing Board Member, Union Hills District, Grass Valley, California. John Abraham Abe Powell, Fire District, Santa Barbara, California. Kimberly Ann Peterson, Unified School District, Sonoma, California. Lauren Peters, Board of Directors, Nevada Irrigation District, Placer County, California. Matthew Clark, Community Services District, San Mateo, California. Randy Marks, Fair Oaks Water District, Sacramento, California. Ruskal Kayangyang, Board of Education Trustee, Unified School District, Saloma, California. Kim O'Connor, Soil and Water Conservation Board, Hillsborough, Florida. Jesse Torres, Park Commissioner, Holly Township, Oakland, Michigan. Corey Blyvies, Town Clerk, Newburgh Township, Michigan. Shauna McNally, Park Commissioner, Michigan. Stuart Collis, Park Commissioner, Michigan. Tom Mayer, County Board, Grand Traverse, Michigan. Lena Buggs, Soil and Water Conservation District, Ramsey, Minnesota. Sharon LeMay, Soil and Water Conservation District, Anoka, Minnesota. Steve Latian, Soil and Water Conservation District, Anoka, Minnesota. Dr. Jill Stein and her running mate, Ajamu Baraka, spoke just 2 days prior to the election with supporters at Mary Washington University in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Dr. Stein was introduced by male co-chair Dr. Sidney Smith from Appomattox, Virginia. Excerpts from Jill Stein's talk we'll be sharing with you today.
When you swan dive off a 5-story building, it's not the fault of the person. It's that sudden stop at the end. This stage I'm standing on is perfectly safe, but if I hit it at over 40 miles per hour, as I would if I jumped from 5 stories, it would make a mess. This is what people who complain that the Earth has been much warmer before, so what's the big deal, don't understand. We are seeing on a human timescale changes that should take place only on geological timescales. The violence of this warming event is just as great for our living planet as any dinosaur-destroying asteroid. In fact, it's worse. The closest analogy in the paleological record is the Permian-Triassic extinction event that destroyed 96% of all marine species and most land vertebrate species. So much biodiversity was lost that it took the planet millions of years to recover. This is the closest historical analog to what scientists tell us we are now doing to our planet. I think I'm exaggerating. They're getting grief counseling over it. And it couldn't come at a worse time. Just as the effects of climate change are starting to become undeniable, we find that Mother Earth was already on her knees. World Overshoot Day came on August 8th this year. That is the day, 5 days sooner than last year, more than 2 months sooner than just 10 years ago. That is the day on which we began using, for the calendar year, more than the Earth can sustainably provide in a calendar year. That's the day, this year, we began eating our children. That appetite has consequences. We learned in October that during my adult lifetime, more than half of all wildlife on the planet has been destroyed. And we're not talking just the big animals. In the same period, we've lost half our insects and half our phytoplankton. Those last are not only the foundation of the global food chain, they also make most of the oxygen that we breathe. The seas are one cradle of the microscopic life on which all other life depends. The other one is soil. It is soil that takes and recycles the waste products of life and returns new life. Without it, this planet is just a big rock with some water splashing around. And half our topsoil is already gone. The UN believes there might be 60 years worth left.
I'm sure you get asked this question all the time. I get asked this question. Well, who would I really rather see? Because the election is just between these two candidates that we hate more than any other candidates we've ever had, but they keep trying to define the race as that. The reality is they're trying to force this choice down our throats, a choice between a neo-fascist and a proven warmonger and nuclear war threat, and say, here, pick one. Well, what we say is no thank you to the whole corrupt system. We deserve a politics of integrity. That's for us. And this is that, incredible moment right now, because we are saying that we do not have to surrender. We do not consent to that choice between neo-fascism or endless and expanding explosive war, which, by the way, is bouncing back at us with a vengeance. So, I just have to hand it to you, and I have to say, you guys really are our salvation, because you're the ones who are in the target hairs right now. You're in the target hairs of this predatory economy, this predatory political system that is saying you don't get to have good jobs. They're saying we have a recovery. What's that recovery? It's a recovery of part-time, low-wage, temporary, insecure jobs. That's not a recovery, that's an emergency. They're saying you gotta live with the climate crisis, which is, as Sid pointed out, which is barreling down on us right now. Jim Hansen, the father of climate science, who hasn't been wrong yet, his latest study is saying, well, maybe we have till 2060. As soon as 2060, we could see 10, 20, 30 feet of sea level rise, which means it's curtains, basically, because, that's population centers all over the country and all over the world that basically get flooded out. We can hardly survive right now with the 65 million refugees globally, largely from our wars, but this will multiply those refugees at least 10 times over. So it's not like it's just a crisis on the coast. This is a crisis everywhere. And besides, there are about 12.5 nuclear power plants located at sea level. And you know what that means? It means we've got Fukushima all up and down our coasts and all over the world. So it's not like we're just going to lose some cities. It's like, well, we've created incredible toxic waste sites all up and down our coasts. You know, we've basically eliminated the oceans as a source of food for the foreseeable future if we go into that incredible crisis. We have fossil fuels spilling all over the place from the plants and the LNG refineries and all that are located along the coast. We can't go there, you know, and they're saying to you, just be good little boys and girls, you know, just be quiet, just don't protest, and just vote for these two parties that have thrown you under the bus. Well, you are saying no, we are saying no, and together we cannot be stopped. We are going to create that world. We do have the power. Don't believe them for a minute. In the words of Alice Walker, the famous poet and novelist, to paraphrase her, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We have it, and we're going to use it. And one of the ways we're going to use it is this. If you take all together the number of people who are trapped in student loan debt, that means millennials and Gen Xers, and even people into middle age, because once you get into student debt, it's really hard to get out of it, especially in the economy, the way it has evolved over the last 10, 15 years, and especially now. So if you add up all these people, here's the really good news, and they don't want you to know this, so don't keep it a secret. 43 million people locked in student debt is a winning plurality of the presidential vote in a three-way race. Millennials in debt can actually come out and take over this election and win it to cancel student debt, just by getting that word out. So even though the media is working overtime in order to silence us, in order to discourage you, in order to just make you kind of give up and drop out, in fact, word is getting out. And we are growing in the polls at the time that third-party candidates are usually going down in the polls. We are going up. And in spite of that media blockade, the word is getting out. Because when people hear, oh my God, I can just come out and vote to end student debt and we can actually do that, that is the truth. And that word spreads like a wildfire. And whether we actually win the office or we win the day by making a strong showing, we have put that issue on the map. And it is never coming off until we end student debt. And here's why. We bailed out the crooks on Wall Street who crashed the economy with their waste, fraud, and abuse. Isn't it time to bail out the victims of Wall Street? A generation. Just for young people, it's for all of us, because who is it that leads the way forward in social change? It has always been the younger generation, whether it was the civil rights movement or the Black Lives Matter movement now, whether it was the climate justice movement or the environmental movement or the indigenous rights movement or the immigrant rights movement and the dreamers. It's always been the courage of that millennial generation to stand up and lead the way forward. So it's not just for your sake, it's for all of our sake that it's time to cancel that student debt. And we can do that, and we are going to do that. So I don't know if you saw John Oliver try to lynch us around student debt. Well, the reason he attacked us on student debt is because that is the most powerful issue out there. And in fact, there are many ways we can pay for that student debt, many different ways. Here's one of them. Right now, we are paying $1 trillion as designed by the Obama White House. We're spending $1 trillion on a new generation of nuclear weapons. Like as if that's what the world needs, is more weapons that can kill us all, you know, in the blink of an eye. Well, how about instead of funding a new generation of nukes, we fund a new generation of students? That $1 trillion can spend that debt. There's one way to do it. Another way to do it is we can put a small tax on Wall Street transactions. Wall Street is the most profitable sector of the economy. Why should they be the only sector of the economy that doesn't pay a transaction tax? They should. Basically, it's a sales tax, but on Wall Street transactions. A tiny tax. We're paying 5 and 10% when you go to the store. Well, if we only put even less than 0.5% of a tax on Wall Street sales, that would be generating $300, $400, even $500 billion a year. And that would get us out of student debt in the course of 2-3 years. So there are many ways to do it. And when we come out to cancel student debt, we can also make public higher education free and ensure that loans are affordable for private higher education as well, that you are not locking yourselves into debt in the future. We can also create an emergency jobs program that will also solve the emergency of climate change. So we call for a Green New Deal that will create 100% wind, water, and sun, zero out our fossil fuels and nuclear energy by 2030, not the middle of the century, 2030. In time to solve this problem. We call for health care as a human right for everyone through an improved Medicare for all system. We deserve that. Everybody in, nobody out. It's the same amount of money. We just put our health care dollars into health care, not into paper-pushing bureaucracy and profiteering by pharmaceutical and insurance companies. We call for a welcoming path to citizenship for the immigrants who have always been at the heart of our economies and our communities. And we say the most important thing we can do to fix this immigration crisis is to stop causing it in the first place. Through NAFTA, through the war on drugs, which killed over 100,000 people in the last 6 years or so in Mexico alone, causing violence all over Latin America, and by stopping the overturning and the undermining of other democracies around the world, like El Salvador and Honduras and Guatemala, which has been generating more over the last decade. So we say to Donald Trump, we don't need your friggin' wall. We just need to stop invading other countries. Of racist violence and police violence against black people and brown people. Not one more needless death. Every black life matters. And we can ensure that there is accountability so that every community has a citizen review board with the power to subpoena and independent investigators so that every death at the hands of police or in prisons is investigated. Every family is owed an explanation. Every perpetrator needs to be held accountable. We also call for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission because we have an epidemic of racism that underlies this violence. Racism and xenophobia and LGBTQ hate and disparaging. So we need to get to the bottom of that with a deep community conversation that shares our art and our music and our personal stories so we can understand the kinds of bias and prejudice that so many of us are living with and find our common humanity and our common decency. We are on one boat here on this small planet. We're all going to sink together or sail together. Let's make it sail together. And then finally, we need a foreign policy based on international law and human rights, not on military and economic domination. Because these wars for oil and this so-called war on terror is only creating more terror. And in fact, it's also bankrupting us. This Department of Defense is really a department of offense. These are not defensive wars in the Middle East. They are wars to control resources and in particular oil and routes of transportation. So these wars, in fact, are costing us more than half of our discretionary budget and nearly half of your income taxes. But what do we have to show for it? We have failed states, mass refugee migrations that are tearing apart the Middle East and Western Europe, for that matter. And we have worse terrorist threats. They're not getting better, they're actually getting worse with each turn of the cycle of violence. So we're saying we need a new kind of offensive in the Middle East. It's called a peace offensive in the Middle East. And it starts with a weapons embargo, which we can easily begin because we are supplying the majority of weapons that get into all hands, all combatants in the Middle East. And we also call for a freeze on the bank accounts of those countries, our allies in particular, who continue to fund terrorist extremism around the world. That means in particular the Saudis and also the Qataris. It means we go to our friends and our allies and even our adversaries with a whole lot of humility, because we've been leading the charge ourselves in violating international law and human rights. And we say we are turning over a new leaf here. We're going for a new way forward. So we're not going to allow our friends or our adversaries who have bank accounts in our countries, we're not going to allow you to continue funding this crisis. Because, which is it going to be? We and our allies cannot simultaneously fight terrorism with one hand, while with the other hand, we have been funding terrorism, arming terrorism, and training terrorism. Case in point, Osama bin Laden, who was trained by us as part of starting the Mujahideen and the international terrorist movement that the CIA and the Saudis began together in Afghanistan back in, the 1970s, as part of an effort to thwart the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. Well, we can only keep doing this so many times. The idea, this basic paradigm of funding and arming the warlord de jure, who then turns on you the next day, this is just creating an incredible crisis, a mess, poverty and violence all over the world. Who is benefiting? We are not creating greater democracies, more women's rights, more stability. The only ones who are benefiting are actually the weapons manufacturers who are calling the shots in the Democratic and Republican parties. We are international law and human rights. And that means we're standing up now for an America and a world that works for all of us. It means we are rejecting this propaganda that tells us we don't count. That's absolutely false. We do have the power. No one counts more than our younger generation who is envisioning what the new world looks like, what the future looks like. You need to be liberated in order to do your job, your responsibility to create that world. So we're saying it's time to reject the lesser evil, to stand up and fight for the greater good, like our lives depend on it. Because they do.
Welcome back to Independent Green Party, Green TV, the show dedicated to positive New Deal solutions and the Independent Green Party, and independent candidates who advocate for them. In the past, two legacy parties have refused to remove federal subsidies for big oil, big asphalt, and big auto, which pollute the air and water and are unsustainable. Yet the two legacy parties continue to place burden on local communities to fund rail and mass transit. Across the nation in 2016, voters considered more than $200 billion in local transportation ballot-related issues. Usually sales tax or property tax measures, yet rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America. The Center for Transportation and Excellence reports that since they began monitoring the results in 2000, transit ballot measures enjoy 71% success rate. As yet, unofficial results for 2016 indicate that the rate held true. 34 U.S. cities and counties successfully passed transit measures. Rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America. That's it for Green TV. I'm Angela Trusty, your host for today. Please join us next time for Independent Green Party, Green Party TV.